Hey guys, welcome back to another blockchain news video. Today we have a green market. That's awesome news, right? We moved over the 9,000 threshold for Bitcoin, currently sitting at $9,026. We do have Ethereum at 172, XRP at 23 cents, Bitcoin Cash 365, Bitcoin SV 302. So it's nice to see some green. And we're moving right over a few percentages, so it seems to be pretty stable, the upside that we've made in the past few hours. The rest of the cryptocurrency market looks like it's also in the green, at least for the majority of the top coins. Very few coins are down. Currently Dash negative 2.6%, Zcash negative 1, but just very small percentages. So that's very good to see. I'm excited to see how the rest of the week is going to pan out for crypto, but I'm hoping that it remains in the green and that Bitcoin can stay above that 9,000 level. We did see over a 9,100, almost 9,200 in some exchanges, so that's really awesome. We're getting close to that 10K mark. Moving on to the news, today we have Singapore announces new AML rules for crypto businesses. The Monetary Authority of Singapore is updating its regulatory framework for digital payments. As such, crypto businesses in Singapore are required to first register and then apply for a license to operate in the jurisdiction. As of January 28th, firms will have a month to register with MAS, stating that they are based in Singapore and are operating a should-be DLT business. Then once firms have registered, they're going to have a 6-month grandfathering period during which they can apply for a payment institution license. So this Singapore is making this to go hand in hand with the new European rules that came out, and they're trying to work in the same fashion. They want to work with the Financial Action Task Force and follow their recommendations. So they have their own needs applied for their AML rules, but in essence, they want to stay up to date. And we did see some projects like, for example, Deribit, a Netherlands-based crypto derivatives exchange, is actually planning to relocate to Panama because its home country's version of AML D5. It would put too high barriers for the majority of traders, both regulatory and cost-wise. So it's interesting to see that Singapore is stating that these two countries, Singapore and Switzerland, are two countries that know how to have a striking balance between meaningful regulation in place and not being prevented from attracting businesses. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to play out for Singapore blockchain businesses, right, as a whole, and cryptocurrency businesses. So moving on to the next, we have Ukraine plans to track suspicious crypto transactions above 1,200, and this was shared by the country's Ministry of Finance. We had heard about this before, but now we're getting a little bit more information about it. If exchangers, banks, or other companies make payments in cryptos worth more than UAH 30,000 or 1,200 USD, they must verify such transaction and collect detailed customer information. The customer must provide comprehensive information about the origin and destination of the virtual assets. So they are also trying to make sure that people are staying up to date with the whole anti-money laundering. But the interesting thing is that they have a bill that is going to work with the virtual assets in Ukraine, and it's suggesting a 5% tax on crypto revenue. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see in the Ukraine and how that's going to work with the rest of the world, right? 5% tax is way more attractive than some of the higher ones we've seen in other countries. Makarova stated, "I think that our criminals and corrupt officials are quite conservative and still keep the funds mostly in cash. Therefore, in the legalization of cryptos, I see opportunities for the development of this industry in our country, not a threat." So that's interesting to keep in mind, right? That most criminals are going to use cash. It's way less transparent and harder to keep track of where cash is being sent to than blockchain in itself. And as more people, more government officials continue to understand this, we're going to see more favorable legislation in favor of cryptos as a whole. So moving next up, we have former BAC CEO and current Senator Loeffler delays disclosing assets. So she has delayed disclosing her financial disclosure report, and people are watching, standing nearby, because they want to see why she continues to file for extensions. The latest one is going to give her till May 5th. Craig Holman, an ethics lobbyist at Public Citizen, told Cointelegraph that extensions on filing are not uncommon. The purpose really is just transparency, obviously, of one's potential conflicts of interest. So the thing to keep in mind, though, is that she was appointed Senate Agriculture Committee, giving, grits to ethics analysts. So the committee oversees the body of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which is the CFTC, and that oversees her husband's company, which is ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange. So when news came out that she became a senator, it was great, but we don't want to see her fall through the cracks, because obviously we know that she's going to support the ICE, which oversees BACT. And so we want that to go hand in hand. And then we want her to gain more support from the CFTC, so that these regulations and everything that has to work with cryptos, falls into place from the top down. So right now, she gets to vote on issues and appointments that affect the reported 600 million personal fortune of her husband, Jeffrey Sprecher, CEO of ICE, the company that owns Bitcoin options contracts, regulator of BACT. So yeah, just pretty much what I said, just summed up. And then obviously failure to file a financial disclosure report risks both civil and financial penalties. So that's also important to keep in mind for her. Next up, we have blockchain, not Bitcoin. China's BTC volume on local Bitcoin hits 2-year low, guys. So right now, we used to see on January 25th, China traded just about 4.5 million yuan, which is 648,000 on local Bitcoins, and it's down from 90% from the intra-year weekly high of more than 45 million yuan, which is 6.4 million. So it went down over 90%. That's a very big deal, especially from China. The regulations there are tight. You want to have a market where people that want to trade out of Bitcoin or want to purchase Bitcoin can do so safely. And the best way to do that was honestly local Bitcoins. But right now, they're not even trading. So let's see how they're going to manage moving forward. Next up, we do have financial advisors should allocate client funds to Bitcoin, executive says. This financial advisor is stating that remaining hesitant to invest client money in Bitcoin is not good. Advisors should invest up to 2% and help those in the West that are novice or professional investors, because they should look at the best opportunities moving forward for the long term. We noticed and we saw that Bitcoin, right, has been the best asset to carry in the past 10 years. No other asset has been able to compete with the returns of Bitcoin. So it now becomes clear to a lot of these old heads and professionals, right, to advise each other to get involved with cryptocurrency or Bitcoin specifically, since it's gone up in so much value, right, in comparison to the US dollar and the inflations that have taken place. Blockchain, the most important innovation since magnetic strip, as per Edelman. Blockchain, the technology underpinning Bitcoin and other major cryptocurrencies, is the most important innovation since the introduction of the magnetic strip in credit cards, or debit cards. Edelman anticipates that blockchain will pave the way for an authentication economy that will replace the trust industry, eliminating the need for ticket sellers, real estate agents, and other intermediary agents. So pretty interesting to keep that information in mind, how some of these people are now starting to claim big things for how big blockchain is. And some people are even stating that blockchain is the biggest thing in this entire century. So gonna be interesting. Moving forward, local Bitcoins, right? More information about them is shutting down accounts in problematic countries. So things to keep in mind if you're from a country that is currently having issues. First, if you're from any of these countries that's local Bitcoins is currently not working, it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, and Nigeria. They received messages from the exchange operator that were telling them they could take out their Bitcoin holdings by deleting their account. Now, some people have said that their accounts got shut down, but they've not been able to take out their Bitcoin. So obviously that presents a huge issue. But any other countries that are in the situations that these 5 countries might be in, you know, where they fall under European regulations and stuff, especially with local Bitcoins, try to keep your crypto possibly outside of that, because you don't know how they're going to respond. And I've been covering this news with local Bitcoin specifically for the past, I believe, week, and I've had other countries that came up or other places that local Bitcoins just decided to shut down out of the blue. So keep that in mind, guys. Try to keep your crypto safe. That's the most important thing in crypto is, you know, the fact that you can hold your own assets. So don't let somebody else take over your cryptocurrency, right? Next up, we have Ditto Music to launch app offering speedy blockchain solution. So they're planning to launch Bluebox, a blockchain recording technology that aims to trace royalties for music from the studio through to consumer streaming. So we've heard of projects like this before, right? But this one specifically is going to help allow to address legal concerns, copyright registration, publishing, and mechanical splits. It's being stated that the app records music around legally binding smart contracts, which are written into code and instantly copyrights the content. So that's pretty interesting to see that technology be so quick. There's billions of dollars of unclaimed royalties out there. Blockchain can help millions of artists claim what is rightfully theirs. And lastly, Ditto claimed to promote higher collection rates while massively reducing the loss of earnings currently experienced by artists. I'm going to be straight up, guys. If you play a guitar, you play the drums, you play any kind of instrument, if you haven't done so in a while, you know, brush up on your talent, because it's looking good for artists in this coming decade, right? With these technologies in place, we're saying that you're going to be able to monetize your ability pretty easily. So keep that in mind, right? Time to dust off those instruments. Next up, we have Israeli regulators request feedback to foster blockchain innovation. The Israeli Securities Authority seeks public input to identify pain points in blockchain regulation and identify clear advantages to the sector's development. The regulator emphasized that DLT has a potential to promote the Israeli capital market. So very big to see that statement there, guys. We have had other governments in itself be interested in blockchain, but none of them have specifically stated, or any securities authority out there has stated that they can promote their capital market with blockchain. So this is a very big thing here for the ISA to state that they're in Israel. So they're saying it may reduce trading costs and systemic risks to the economy, in addition to better access to capital markets for small, medium enterprises. As long as these specific platforms fulfills regulatory aims such as anti-money laundering and financial stability, the regulator has said it will maintain a technology neutral approach. So that's very good to see. They want to, you know, keep up with the basic AML rules and all that good stuff, but they don't want to get in the way of development. So Israel may be a great place for up and coming projects to keep in mind, because they're very interested in growing their capital market as a whole. Next up, we do have heated debate continues over Bitcoin Cash infrastructure funding plan. So a few videos ago, I did cover how Bitcoin Cash is currently or the creators of Bitcoin Cash are considering having a 12.5% miner funded tax. So it seems like the community has spoken up about this idea, and a lot of people are in the same mindset that this will probably corrupt Bitcoin Cash. It's not necessary to make a mandatory miner fee like that. It represents a departure too far, both from our core principles and from Bitcoin as peer-to-peer electronic cash. This is honestly, guys, this is not positive news to hear how, you know, some of these development groups are pushing for this kind of tax, right? Because we're big on this decentralization. That's what Bitcoin brings as a whole. That's what we want from, honestly, probably all the cryptos, is keeping that decentralization in mind in the project. So right now they're saying it is bad enough that mining is centralized to the point where it might be feasible for a cartel of miners to impose a tax on block rewards. The fact that the community is seriously considering modifying the protocol to kill off this cartel's competition is sickening. As Satoshi said, the first transaction in a block is a special transaction that starts a new coin owned by the creator of the block. The community must reject any change to the protocol that would make this no longer so. So another developer by the name of Imaginary Username stated that 6 large holders, each with 100,000 Bitcoin Cash, can contribute 1 million each, 3% of their holdings each, and the mining tax proposal's amount will be matched. So the idea is that there's a huge profit margin if those big holders do this instead of the smaller groups, right? Instead of the miners being taxed, because this would then fund development for Bitcoin Cash. And if it does scale to the same ETH market cap, then those returns would pay off a lot better. So not sure what's going to happen here with Bitcoin Cash, but just stay in the news with that. If you are a holder of Bitcoin Cash, you know, this might just be a rough patch. Maybe the community will just get over it, or maybe they might pass this new tax. Who knows? Ripple's XRP expected to see a major devaluation by boom bust anchor. Right now, we've seen that Ripple is coming out with their IPO, and it's expected in the next 12 months, but we haven't gotten more information about that. The big issue has been that XRP has sold. Ripple has been selling XRP to the market over a certain period of time. Right now, the community has managed to price in that selling pressure from Ripple, but we can argue that the price hasn't gone up, and it may be because of that selling. So now the issue is that traders are not actually using XRP for its utility. They are primarily interested in speculative future gains. And it's understandable, because we saw how Bitcoin went up in price, Ethereum, the entire market, right, prior to or during that boom in 2017. So people want to see that again. XRP had gone up to $3, and now it's at 23 cents from what I saw in CoinDesk. This suggests that XRP could be in a significant price drop if the only thing that's supporting the asset is speculative investors. For Ripple, the chief idea has been to always try to work alongside with traditional finance, commented Tucker. So an IPO will not be the same as issuing a token that is trading on crypto exchanges. Transactions remain relatively low. Having shares of Ripple will also mean XRP may turn into a utility asset. As a utility, XRP can be theoretically used within RippleNet. But also we know that very few people that are using RippleNet are actually using XRP for their transactions or remittances. So, you know, a lot of people continue to consider it an unregistered security. Those court cases have been pretty much dismissed for the most part. So I'm not worried about that last line there that I highlighted, but just figured I'd keep keep that in the news just so you guys know what's kind of happened with XRP. I think XRP in itself could be a great utility token or coin. It's very fast for transactions when you sell out of your XRP position, right? When you want to send money into a different wallet, that money can get there pretty fast in about 2 or 3 seconds, I believe. And actually, BitPay just added XRP, so you can cash out of XRP even faster with BitPay. So not a shameless plug, it's just that I remember BitPay from the other news yesterday. Next up, we do have all you need to know about the Silicon Valley crypto. So Andrew Capital, US-based venture capital firm, is intending to launch its own SVC, so Silicon Valley Crypto. The firm seeks to issue SVC through a security token offering route. Basically, it's going to be on the Tezos blockchain, and they're also partnering with Tokensoft. Tezos did see a 9% increase. The SVC is going to be using Tokensoft's issuance platform. And the cool thing here is that this is going to allow competent investors to use the SVC to explore further investment opportunities in the US and around the globe. That's going to be pretty cool, because if you're from anywhere outside of the US, you'll get more access to good investing opportunities through this SVC. And then it's going to be used for late stage private technology companies. So private technology companies that have shown that their technology is ready to go, right? And they're almost at that point to go either public or release the product. So the Tokensoft platform offers the tech for qualified retail investors to take part in suitable late stage venture firms like we just discussed. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this piece of info. I figured I'd cover it so you guys know. Tezos has been in another article recently, so it seems like it's doing everything it needs to. And it's there was a piece here that they mentioned that it makes it easy essentially for, it says it here. We have seen huge demand from issuers looking forward to issuing on the Tezos blockchain because of its institutional grade properties and quality. So that's what I've kind of heard when I've looked up Tezos, is that it does look for institutional level or company level projects. So that's going to be interesting to hear more about that, how that plays out, and if retail investors can actually get involved with this new crypto. Next up, we have our blockchain and tokenization, the holy grail in eradicating wealth inequality. The reason why I posted this, even though we do know a lot of the information here, so to first begin, tokenization allows for fractional asset ownership. So right now, if you want to own real world assets such as art, real estate, and cars, tokenizing it is going to allow for us to get a fraction of that asset. So instead of having to buy it as a whole, a market can be created from this, because the tokens enable investors to trade them at a discount to par value in case they want to exit the investment plan, or they can keep holding to have a piece of that asset, and that can return to them a greater investment. So we are seeing that the CIO and CEO Mark Yusko of investment advisory company Morgan Creek Capital Management believes that blockchain tech is crucial to alleviating wealth inequality. He said the government and the elites want to have all the wealth, so they manufacture inflation and the wealth flows to the top. And that's why we have the greatest wealth inequality in the history of mankind. Bitcoin helps solve that, because now we can opt out as an owner of assets from that fiat system. So that line was interesting, right? This is the greatest wealth inequality in all of mankind. If you are on the younger side, I consider myself to be young, right? I'm 26. So, I read something like that and it's kind of mind boggling, because I don't know anything other than the system we had, which was or we have in place, which is fiat. And now learning more and more about crypto every day, it's kind of my eye-opening, and to know that I'm living in a time where a lot of people out there, there's just a huge gap between the rich and those that don't have wealth. So yeah, it was interesting to take note on that, and being that it was Morgan Creek Capital Management, that was pretty interesting. So next up, we have Wuhan Coronavirus outbreak could cause potential disruption to the crypto market. So we've seen 4,500 cases confirmed worldwide. It affected the Dow Jones, dropping by 1.6%. The S&P 500 also declined 1.6%. And we've seen that the virus has claimed at least 100 lives in Wuhan. So that's honestly really bad news. That virus keeps spreading everywhere. But what we've also noticed is that China has the status as a crypto investment hub. It houses more crypto exchanges in the Asia Pacific region, which has 40% of the world's top 50 exchanges. We see Jason Wu, the CEO of crypto lender Definer. He was planning to have a few dozen meetings, and they've had to reschedule or cancel those meetings due to the outbreak. They had a 10-city tour to talk with potential clients in China. Nobody wants to attend any crypto-related conferences or any meetings at all because of the virus. So they had to rearrange everything. So that's kind of the effects, right? When we see these outbreaks take place, it is not just on the health side and how unfortunate it can be for everybody, right? We got to stay safe. We got to make sure this virus is not spreading, but how it turns into fear for businesses as a whole. So interesting to keep that in mind. Next up, we have Cardano's Charles Hoskinson, a camel herding nomad in Mongolia, owns Bitcoin. So he was recently in Mongolia, one of his favorite countries, and he went up to a camel herder because he wanted to talk about some of the wonders and horrors of camels, and he asked him what he was doing for a living. The guy asked Charles Hoskinson what he did for a living, and he said he's a cryptocurrency guy. And the guy said, "Cryptos, you mean like Bitcoin?" And Hoskinson said yes. And the herder said, "I own some Bitcoin." So that's kind of eye-opening also. We've come a long way in these last 10 years with Bitcoin, but it's interesting to see people that are just nomads, right? Herding camels have Bitcoin or own Bitcoin, or not only just own, but own it because they've heard about it, or they're excited about what can happen for them because of Bitcoin. So that was really good news to see and read. Next up, we have BIS flips on digital currencies as 2020 report highlights rapid rise of central banks testing new tech. So before, central banks weren't really interested, and now a survey is showing that central banks are interested in digital currencies. They are going to be issuing their own CBDCs over the next few years, and it's about a fifth of the world's population that's represented by these central banks that are planning to issue their own distributed or digital currencies. CBDCs are going to be tethered to some kind of stable coin, right? So or stable fiat coin, so like the US dollar or maybe the euro. But in essence, it's kind of interesting to hear this new amount of central banks that are interested in establishing their own CBDCs, because before it wasn't nearly any percentage of banks, and now for development, almost 40% of central banks are moving to the next stage, pushing beyond conceptual research to real experiments, with 10% developing pilot projects. So that is a very big deal to see. As we move forward, we should be seeing the CBDCs come out. And last up for today, we have Ethereum's Vitalik Buterin denies accusation of copying Cardano. So Redditor from user named Trade Feeds has claimed that after reviewing some of the architecture of Ethereum 2.0, he's stating that it's similar to Cardano's, right? And testing it on the testnet and whatnot. What we did here is that it is supposedly using Cardano's slot and epoch architecture. Forgive me for my ignorance, guys. I'm not too keen on Cardano, but I do know that Hoskinson has been working heavy on Cardano. I know it's more of they like to get other kind of renowned institutions like universities and stuff like that kind of involved. But essentially, slot refers to a block that is proposed for verification, while epoch means the period of the blockchain existence with some predetermined status. Vitalik kind of responded pretty sarcastically when somebody said that, you know, it's like Tesla plagiarizing or ripping off Ford by releasing cars with 4 wheels, right? So what he's saying is essentially that the design of the slots and epochs is for proof of stake consensus is just like having 4 wheels for cars. You know, interesting that he is basically denying that accusation, but we'll see how that develops throughout the week if more people continue to comment on ETH2 testnets. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click the like button. You can sub to the channel for more blockchain news. I'm going to keep having this news made for you guys almost daily without the weekends, and I'll see you guys on the next one.